What is up, YouTube, and welcome back to another video. Today's something a little bit different. We're not on the bike today, but instead we will actually be installing some risers on the bike, something that I've been trying to do for the last 2 years. But the reality is it's pretty expensive, and you need time, you need expendable funds, you know. So we're gonna probably fuck something up, okay? I've never done this before, so this is going to be kind of like a step-by-step tutorial from somebody who hasn't done it before. So if I run across any issues, obviously you guys are going to be there with me so you don't make the same mistakes. But shouldn't be too difficult. It is decently straightforward. I definitely know we're going to have to take off, you know, the tank, things like that, but we're going to go step by step. We're going to get it going. First thing I want to do is show you guys all of the parts you're going to need, because that was kind of one of the most difficult things for me, was finding what do I need exactly, you know, everything from the throttle by wire kit, just all the little things, you know, other than just the risers, and if you're going bars like me, bars. First thing I want to do is a price breakdown, and then we can get into it, right? We'll just start tearing shit apart and putting it back together. So let's get into it. All right, y'all, so I'm making this clip towards the end of this project here. I want to address two things before we get into the project. Number one is, halfway through this, I realized that because I have the non-ABS bike, the Lowrider S, you're not able to just change out your brake line. So you have to order this brake kit assembly, which again, everything's going to be in the description below. But in the original video that I filmed, I didn't include this, nor did I include blinker extensions. So your blinker cable extensions, as well as your, if you have 2022 and up, digital gauge extension. So again, I just want to address those things before we get into the original tape. So make sure you grab those as well. All the links are in the description. And all right, let's get it. All right, y'all, just to get as accurate as possible, I got the phone out. So the OG Moto pullback risers with, obviously it comes with the top clamp as well. That comes out to about $450. So right there, we're already about 500 bucks. It quickly shoots up, by the way. The bars themselves were $115. Pretty straightforward there. Let me set these to the side. Upper brake line adapter. Sorry, upper brake line extension, $82. You're going to need an adapter for your brake line that goes into the splitter, I guess you would call it. This was $42. I'm not gonna, because it's such a big bag, the cable, the clutch cable extension, that was $104. That goes from that quick disconnect up to your handlebars, because that's all you need to extend. Also, if you're going to replace your risers, definitely do the bushings. Through OG Moto, those are $45. As you can see, everything's like 50 plus almost, right? This comes with your risers as well. I want to clarify that this is going to be a front mount, because what I don't like is whenever you put these risers on, how the your new gauge location is up here in your face. You know, I want it down below so I can still have a clear point of view, and it doesn't obstruct the camera view as well. So keep that in mind when you see the build. Again, I'll reiterate it towards the end. These are, well, this is your throttle by wire. This one is $33. Not that bad. This looks like it's going to be turn signals, things like that. This would be my control harness. This was $35. New set of bolts for the risers, not necessary, but I went ahead and did it anyway. I actually didn't put it in this list, but you get them through OG Moto. I think they were like $9 or $10, so nothing too crazy. And again, we'll discuss these parts later. These are non-essential to what we're doing today. But I'll drop links and put up the prices for that when we go to install those two things. But again, it's not really essential for what we're doing today. You can keep everything stock in terms of what those are. So the price breakdown is a total of what's on the screen right now. Sorry, I didn't add it all up. Oh, one more thing. Sorry, the camera was sitting on it. You also need your gauge relocation, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, these things, they're very, they're proud of those as well. I think that was, you know what, let's not even guess. So those are $300. So you can see real quick that these shoot up in price, just the whole project itself. And before we get into it, I want to say the reason why I chose to do this is because I went through both Harley-Davidson and privately owned shops, and labor was about $1,000. Give or take a couple $100 here or there, depending on who, what, where. And that was including me handing all of the parts you needed to them. Labor alone was anywhere between $1,000 to $1,500, depending on who was doing it. So I figured it can't be that hard, you know. I mean, first thing I'm doing is just getting rid of all the accessories that I have mounted on these bars. All right, once I cleaned up all the accessories I had on here, which wasn't much, I just went ahead and took off the seat and both side covers, left and right. It's just best to get the stuff out of the way in case you need to do something. The next thing you would want to do is go ahead and get the gas tank off. I mean, so I'm using 9/16 wrench and a 5/16 Allen, and I really just want to get this tank loose for now because I'm still connected everywhere. Once we get all of the connections disconnected, that's when we're going to go ahead and remove our main fuse. But you want to keep the fuse in at this point only because we're going to go ahead and purge the lines once we disconnect the fuel line. This way there's no excess gas in the lines and we don't necessarily have to worry about spilling fuel everywhere. Alright, so after we loosen up the bolts for the gas tank, make sure you shove something underneath the aft side or aft end of the gas tank so we can get some clearance underneath the motorcycle where the top of the engine is. There's going to be 3 things you need to disconnect to remove this gas tank. It's going to be your fuel pump connector, which is definitely a little hard to see. Let me pull out my phone here and try to shine a light so y'all can see what I'm seeing here. Fuel pump connector. I will have to just pull it out once I get it disconnected so you guys can at least see what you're looking for. And then also your fuel line and your overflow line, which are right next to each other. This part is decently easy, but I'm going to show you where you're going to want to make sure that you purge your fuel lines before you disconnect both your fuel and overflow lines so that there's no pressure inside of anything. So let's get to that step first. So first step, remove the fuel pump. This is definitely the hardest part, is being able to get all the way up in there. So just to show y'all, this is what the plug looks like, and if you follow the wire, it comes straight from right next to your fuel line. Let me get some light in there so y'all can see without having to question anything. Fuel line, overflow, you'll see a wiring harness come out right next to it. Just follow that line, you'll see that connector right here. It's as simple as pushing that button down or that tab down and you can pull it out. So this is where you want to purge your lines. This is why we haven't disconnected our main fuse yet. So we're going to turn the bike on and just give it a quick turnover. You're going to want to do that 3 times. And from this point forward, we don't need any electricity going through the bike, so we can go ahead and remove the main fuse. Beautiful. And it's obviously your biggest fuse here, but you remove that. So don't do what I did. Turn your bike on, okay? Wait for it to do its little boot up sequence. You'll hear your alarm boot up, or scream 1 time, then pull the fuse. Don't touch anything else. That shit was fucking loud. So now we can pull the rest of the cables off of the, or should I say fuel lines off of the gas tank, and then we can main fuel line, this little silver tab you just pull up on while you pull your fuel line down, pops right out, and then your overflow line it literally just slips on and off, no issues there. So we'll go ahead and do that. Gas tank will be out of our way. We'll be able to access all of our wires, and then we can start removing all the goodies. All right, next step is to take off the front fairing. Again, we're just trying to clean up this whole space so that we don't have any real obstructions in our way. T25 bit, Of course, nothing that they use is going to be the same around the bike, so it's just you're just going to have a whole bunch of tools. I'll try to explain what tools I'm using for each nut and bolt, but it can get a little ridiculous. All right, so the next step is I think I want to go ahead and get these all the brake fluid out of there and really try to figure out how the hell I'm going to get this off of this. I'm going to call this the distributor. All right, so before we actually worry about what's going on down there, I want to drain this master cylinder just so that we're not dealing with a ridiculous amount of fluid. I want to drain everything, even the lines. We'll get them all connected to the brake bleeder kit that I have. A little pro tip is when you're taking this off, never turn it upside down. So this is what I ended up buying at Harbor Freight. This isn't a very big heavy duty brake job, so you don't really need nothing with a crazy air compressor or anything like that. So this is the Pittsburgh 16-piece brake bleeder and vacuum pump kit. Everything you're going to need to do this job. It's 25 bucks Harbor Freight. That's what it looks like. Oh wow, that's actually beautiful. 3 pumps, it's all gone. At this point, you want to make sure that you are careful not to squeeze your brake handle because fluid will shoot out. All right, and now to clean out the lower assembly brake line. It's pretty simple. You use the same exact tool that we just bought at Harbor Freight. You're going to see a nipple here with a cover over it. You just pop it out. So now you're going to see what almost looks like a grease fitting. You're going to take an 8mm socket. So let's get this on there first. Okay. So it just fits right on. You want to loosen up with your 8mm socket that fitting. Just loosen it up slightly. And you'll see that it almost brake fluid almost starts to come out. I wish I could move the camera, but I got some brake fluid on my hands. So anyway, and then you just literally start pumping. And it really is that easy with this tool. All right, now just to get some slack out of the line here so we can work on what's down there at the distributor, just take your 14mm wrench here and just take the upper assembly off. I have a rag in my hand just to be prepared for whatever could possibly come out. All right, y'all, so there's another part that I need to buy. I knew there was going to be something, but I have the non-ABS version of the Lowrider S. 2022 and up is when that started to become an option. So it turns out that that lower distributing block that I've been dealing with and mentioning a few different times now, does not have, the lines are crimped together. There's no actual fitting for it. So after some research, I found that if you have the non-ABS version like I do, you also have to buy the lower assembly. So that distribution block has to be changed completely, which is kind of shitty. So unlike the brakes, they made the clutch cable probably one of the easiest things to adjust and maintain and also remove. So if you come to the left side of your bike here, you're going to see a little clamp holding your clutch cable. Just go ahead and pop that away. It's a little tight, but don't lose it. That just shot across the shop. Anyway, I'll grab that in a second. Then you just grab this thicker part and you just pull up. You're going to see this yellow thing. I believe these 2 tabs are what you click in. All right, so after you pop these 2 clips out, which is what holds this in, you want to push up, collapse it, and get those clips back in. That relieves the tension off of what's down here. So push up, compress that spring, push that red tab back in. From there, you're going to spin this yellow thing until you see a little tab holding the bottom of your clutch cable to the top. Pick up and push out. And you are now disconnected. All right, well, just to get some things out of the way, some cables pulled out, whatnot, we're going to take the clutch lever off now. So you just need a pair of snap ring pliers. You could use a flathead, whatever, but you risk losing or breaking it. So I would recommend, if you don't have any, to get some. But they're just held on by this little snap ring in here. In case you don't know what they look like, it's that. And these pliers go into these 2 little holes here. So Pretty simple, but easy to lose. So keep that in mind. And then this comes out. And then, all right, so got both levers off. I also had to take off the mirrors. Super simple. 13 or 14 millimeter wrench. I forget which one exactly I used. It's just the bottom bolt. I mean, it's pretty simple. Take that off, get the mirrors out the way, get the levers off. You have to take the mirror off of the brake side to access that, whatever you want to call it, to get this lever off. Super simple, and now you're going to be left with a pretty wide open handlebar setup, if you will. The next thing I want to do is go ahead and go into the frame here and disconnect all of my connections so I can just take these risers off and pull it up and set it down on the bench, because in this specific build we are changing bars as well, so we might have to depin connectors, which I'll walk you guys through as well. But yeah, as long as I can get these bars off, the wires come with it, you know, I can start taking the connectors out from these bars sitting on the bench, making, I don't even think there's another way to do it. All right, so on the left side of your frame here, you're gonna have this rubber gasket looking thingy. You literally just pull it out. See a zip tie here, so we're gonna get rid of that in the meantime so we can see what exactly we're dealing with, and just everything that's running up into these bars we're gonna disconnect. Okay, so we got all the wires that go to any kind of hand control or speedometer pulled out of the triple tree, disconnected. So now the next step, I believe, would be to take the bars off of the triple, or not the triple tree, but the clamp here, and get those set on the table so that those are just out of the way, and then I can deal with these stock risers by themselves. You know, everything's out the way. So we're gonna get an Allen key, figure out what size exactly it is, and we'll keep it moving from there. 1/4 inch. And we'll just go ahead and we will get these bars off. There we go. There we go. All right, so with the bars removed, we can go ahead and take off the stock risers here. You're gonna need a 19 millimeter socket. I don't think you're really gonna need an extension. It doesn't look like it, so we're just gonna go ahead and try to take these off. Now with the risers out of the way, the next thing to do, and only if you plan on changing out your bushings, is to push these bushings out. I found that the easiest way to do it is with a 15 millimeter socket. I've already done one. You don't want to go too big, but you don't want to go too small. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to try here a 14 millimeter, just to kind of split the difference here. But it's pretty simple. Get you a small sledge or a hammer or whatever you got laying around, and you kind of just put it directly here on the middle, and you just bang it out. And just like that, they kind of just fall right through. No issues. And once you get it about halfway, it just pulls right out. So there also is a rubber sleeve in here. So 15 millimeter might be a good idea, just because the 14 only pushed the metal out, but I still got the rubber, but that's okay. It's better than damaging the triple tree itself, and it is just rubber, so you can reach in there and grab it. But yeah, all right, well, because it's not gonna hurt anything, we're gonna go ahead and get the new risers on. I'm not gonna tighten them down completely. I'll explain why in a second, but what you wanna do, it's a pretty straightforward process, is you get both of your, let me set this down real quick so I can show y'all. You just take both of your bushings. I went for solid mount, or for solid bushings, not polyurethane. I don't know. I was right there in the middle where I could run either or, so I just opted for the solid. Do your research on which ones you should run. But, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You put one up in the top, one up in the bottom, and then I also ordered new hardware that goes along with these risers. You don't have to, but I would highly recommend it. It makes your life so much easier. But, yeah, you just get this bottom one up in there, as well as the top, which is already in there. And then you stick your new bolts through. And then if you just start screwing this guy on, at some point it'll grab, and then you don't have to worry about nothing falling. So next part of this project is to because we are changing out for some new bars here, we're going to need to pull all of our wiring, or throttle by wire, lights, switches, all that, basically all of the wiring, all out, so we can then start running them all through. Again, this is going to be a T27 screw. Make sure you save these, obviously. But we're just going to go ahead and just take everything off. Also, something a little exciting is, for me at least, is that these are forever not going to be a part of the bike, because I got some custom gold ones to match the accents I got going around. So, kind of excited for that. And this is probably going to be, oh boy. And of course, this one's a T25. Why make it easy, right? As of right now, it doesn't look like I'm going to have to depin anything. I mean, these are coming out beautifully. No issues at all. Look at that. Wow, these things are much heavier than these. I mean, there's even a weight component to this changing out bars that I had no clue about, but wow, these are heavy. All right, let's see what we're working with this guy. I'll show you a few tricks that I use to pull wires, kind of like my job, so pulling wires doesn't really scare me. So we'll go ahead and we'll try a few things here. I like the string method. And see what we can do. All right, so to get these wires pulled through the new bars, I got a few set of tools here. Not all of them are required, but it could make your life a little bit easier. We're gonna see. You know, I haven't had to do these through bars before, so, but here I got a fish tape. This fish tape I use for work. I've cut the end off so it's thin. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this to pull some string through. Ideally, you definitely want some string though. I would say that will make your life a whole lot easier. Electrical tape, so you can tape the wires to the cable or string. And then, depending on how sticky everything is, I have cable lubricant here. It's it doesn't conduct electricity, so it's safe for wires. This stuff works magic. If you deal with wires even once a year, I recommend just buying a bottle, keeping it in the garage. These entire wiring harnesses are covered in a rubber material. So I think that's going to come in handy. We're going to find out here in just a second. And I think I might see why this will be a problem. So, bring the camera around here. So ideally, what you would probably want to use is this hole and this hole for the riser setup that we're running, because the riders specifically, let's look here, have holes for the wire to go in and then down through. They come out and into our hole here for our cable management. Depinning isn't the worst thing in the world. It's tedious. It can be intimidating for somebody that hasn't done it before. Oh, I did pull it out. Whatever. Definitely can be intimidating. I understand that. But I don't think it's going to be a job that anybody just couldn't do with enough patience. All right, cool. We're going to go ahead and try to remove these connectors. I'm going to take my time with this. I don't want to damage anything. So when I figure out the best way to do this, I will be sure to show y'all. All right, so on the black and white wired plug, there's going to be this little tab that you need to pull back, and that's like a mechanical lock so that these connections don't pull out. There's two clips holding it in side by side. It just takes some finessing, but just be careful with it so you don't nick any wires or anything like that. From there, you'll actually feel that these loosen up. They kind of go in and out just a tad. Don't pull on them yet, because now we're going to look at the inside where we can actually see the connect or the pin sticking out. And there's going to be a little tab, which I might need a light to see. All right, so we got one out. Sorry, I didn't video that one because I was really just trying to figure out, but it's really all not that difficult. So if you're looking at it at this connector with the hole, you're going to push the pin that you see in there towards that hole. So yeah, it's difficult to see, but I mean, once you look down there, get a flashlight, you'll see a little tab that you can push towards that hole. Just applying slight pressure to this as you're doing it. So I kind of just pinch it and put pressure on this. And then you go down. I'm using a piece of welding wire that I have ground down to a point, but then I blunted the tip a little bit, so I'm not really poking or prodding too much. But there we go. A little bit of pressure, more than what you would think, but I guess that's a good thing, right? I could not for the life of me find any way, shape, or form to depin the other connector that's on the throttle by wire harness. So I pulled everything out. I ran, because I have an empty handlebar at that point, I ran this throttle by wire, and we're going to go ahead and depin both our turn signal and our hand control. We're going to do that for both sides because, I mean, honestly, I don't see another way at this point. I really thought we were looking pretty good, but so for this connector, it's pretty simple in comparison. So on the back here, again, take pictures. On the back here, there's like this little door that you can flip up. Use I have precision screwdrivers. They work great for small, tedious things like this. And you just lift it up. You lift this door up, and there are like little things on each side that you're gonna have to get out of the way. And once that's up, you'll have kind of like a little window. It relieves the pressure out of connector. And then once you get this ramped back, you're going to pull back your rubber gasket, if you will. And then in between the plastic and the pin itself, you're going to stick a small flathead in, push up, and pull back. Hello? Oh, thanks, babe. All right, y'all. So easier said than done for sure. I ended up having to use some lubricant because, I mean, these are all rubber versus rubber. Again, you only have to worry about this if you're changing your bars too, but if you're going to be pulling wire through new bars, get you some cable lubricant. It's going to save your life in this. I have depinned everything. I don't know if you can really tell, but everything here is depinned. We got all of the wires ran through. All of the connectors are pretty much the same in terms of depinning. They're pretty simple. I don't want to go too in depth on that because there's 100 videos on YouTube already on how to do it. And I don't have the lighting to really show you in depth how to do it. So I don't want to waste your time with that. So anyway, the next step, I think, would be to put the bars, get the wires ran through the risers here, get the bars mounted, and then we can continue from there. So next step, mount the bars and get everything aligned so we can start tightening down some bolts, screws, nuts, whatever we got to do. All right, so the next step is to get these wires ran through the bars. It's best to have a second pair of hands here because I have these turned out so I can see what, like, pull the wires through. Once I get these wires through the bars, I'll go ahead and turn them in their correct orientation, and we'll go ahead and start tightening things down. All right, so we got the bars mounted. Wires ran through the risers, both sides. I have some slack coming out of the bars here, so before we start tightening anything down, we'll go ahead and get these lined up where they need to be and pull the slack through. I just lightly screwed this on so no one has to stand here and hold the bars. But yeah, so now we just need to start getting all this stuff fitted. All right, so I thought it was going to be a good idea to mount the bars and deal with the wiring and slack. but I found that once you start routing those wires, they start to get hung up on everything, and it's going to be kind of difficult to get the slack out. So I took the bars back off, and we made some adjustments with the wiring length coming out of the bars down here. And I kind of already have set up my left side here. It's just the complete opposite of taking it apart. Left side is going to be a little bit less complicated than the right side, which is why I just went ahead and did this to kind of figure everything out and get lengths and stuff. And then we'll go ahead and talk about the brake side, because that's where you're going to deal with your master cylinder and whatnot. So we'll go ahead and start to put together the right side. And yeah, I'll show you what I learned on this side. Alright, so dealing with the throttle side, the first thing that you're going to want to do is get your cables for your ignition switches and stuff like that, turn signals. You're going to want to get that butted up to where the hole is in your bars. From there, from what I would assume, right, we got a little bit of slack I want to get out here. From there, we just put the cover on of the switches. And this is just temporary, you got to get the screws out. Nothing really all that tight, because for the left and right, meaning how far left or right it goes, I want to put my grips on. And that'll give me an accurate sizing. So we'll go ahead and grab my throttle side and we'll slide it on. And the whole purpose of this is this covers that. So we are actually going to have to loosen it up all the way. And we might have to pull some more slack. I'm not really adjusting angles or anything like that yet. That can be done when the bars are mounted and I'm sitting, and I can get a feel for where I want everything. All right, so that's on. Our throttle is snappy and not stuck, which I have dealt with in the past. All of my buttons are clicking. We're good. No awkward tension. All right. And now we'll go ahead and mount our master cylinder. And everything should fall in line with one another. They all move with each other as well. I have new gold accent pieces, but for now, just while we're test fitting, we will go ahead and just use what I got. Alright, so after jumping the gun here, we took the bars back off, installed all of the hand controls to a point where now we have all the wiring we need. So we'll go ahead and remount and run these wires back through the bars. And then we'll continue from there. Alright, and again, we'll just mount the top clamp here so no one has to stand here and hold the bars longer than they need to. But it's important to note when you're putting these on, go in a cross bolt pattern and go evenly, because they will not go on and torque down correctly. Alright y'all, now we got the wires ran through, the bars mounted. Now we're just going to go ahead and repin our connectors. This hole's big enough to where we don't have to worry about it anymore. Everything is ran, so we'll go ahead and get the connectors put back on, and then we'll install our extensions, and then we'll start routing that stuff. Now once your cables are repinned and ran through your triple tree here, just have them dangle out the side and start installing your cable extensions, the ones that we talked about in the beginning of this video. Alright, so the next step is we're going to be placing the gauge in the new OG Moto gauge pod. So first things first, we just got to take the gauges out of here, and then it's a pretty simple install, but we'll go ahead and record it anyway. Alright, so with the stock mount removed, we'll just go ahead and you want to make sure that the OG Moto gasket, the top gasket, is on first. Get that put on nicely. Then you're going to go ahead and feed your wire just through the whole thing. and orient it how you want it. All right, flip it upside down. Route your wire through this hole back here and up through. We'll just go ahead and make sure that it's going through here first. Then you want to get your gasket put on the back. And once you have that back gasket on, you're going to want to go ahead and just get your back cover and line up the holes and tighten her down. Little pro tip before you do all that, make sure you take the OEM gasket off that came with the original mount. Alright, so with the gauge pod now mounted in the OG Moto assembly, we're going to go ahead and install the bracket for it so that we can attach it to the risers. So this is a pretty simple setup here. So it's just this bracket. It comes with it, and it just goes behind the bars here, and it just takes really an Allen key, but it's super simple. Nothing that I'm doing here right now I'm going to officially tighten all the way, because I am going to go back once I have everything kind of situated and I know for sure it's where I want it. I'm going to go back in and thread lock it all up, because the last thing you want to do is lose a bolt while you're driving down the highway. So for this build, I chose a bottom mount for the gauge pod. You can run it up top too, but again, I chose for the front because I just don't like the pod being so high up in front of your face. It kind of gets in the way of the view of the camera and things of that nature. So I went with the bottom mount. We'll see how it looks and how it feels as we're riding in a later video. But in the meantime, yeah. So it also comes with this. This is, you just mount it to where, well, there's only one place to mount it, so you can't really screw that up. And we'll just get it in there, but again, not too tight or anything, so we have movement. That actually looks really fucking nice. It fits almost perfect. And just so y'all can get a mock-up view of what we're looking at right now, that's how I have it set. Again, it's mounted from the bottom. Originally, you can only get it mounted from the top, so that would put the gauge pod up here, kind of blocking your view. But with this mounting option, it looks like it's going to be pretty much out of the way, but still clear enough to where you don't have to take your eyes off the road to watch it. So we're looking good so far. All right, y'all, real quick, we're going to talk about the brake cable, or not the brake cable, the clutch cable. If you get the one that I ordered that you see in the link below, there is going to be no more quick adjuster. You're going to lock them in with this nut right here. So with that being said, the only thing you take off of your old clutch cable is the black tube. It already comes with another head gasket looking thing. So you're going to get that. But all right, so next step is to get the clutch cable back installed. You just take the thick pin that you had in there, put that back in, get your clutch in there, and then we're going to go ahead and start routing this. All right, so to get your clutch cable started, you're going to just take your clutch lever here, put it through the only slot it can go in, take your plastic piece, pop it in there, route it through the groove, and get your pin in. Once your pin is in, up on your levers, you're going to want to go ahead and just route this down to your lower clutch assembly. Don't forget you do have this bracket here, or this clamp. I don't know if it's smart to run it through first. I'm not going to. I'll just pop it out. I just want to get everything ran just to see what I'm working with. Maybe I can route this a different way. But we're just going to, semi put this together just so I can kind of play around with a few things. All right, so I was having a little bit of difficulties, but ultimately what you do is you take this new clutch cable and you loosen this up so you can pull it down. And then it literally just clips in like the original did. And you tighten it by actually screwing this piece and then this is how you're going to tighten it so it doesn't move up and down. All right, so I was having a little bit of issue with the cable line, so I did it without recording, but I figured it out, and now that I've done it once, I can do it a million times. So what you're gonna wanna do is attach the top end onto your levers, get your levers set, good to go. From there, mind you, this all depends on the length that you choose, but I was able to run it through here. I might wrap this with some kind of protective tape so it doesn't keep vibrating on there, but we'll deal with that at towards the end here. But I come through here, we still got to put this clamp on, which we'll do in a little bit, and then basically you just loosen all the way up and attach the female end to the male end, and then tighten it just a little bit. But a key note to clutch cables is what I'm trying to hone in on here is at your resting position, you always want a little bit of play, because if it's too tight, your clutch will always be disengaging, and you'll be smoking your clutch. So you don't want to do that and have premature wear on your clutch cable, or not your clutch cable, but your clutch pad. So make sure you always have just a little bit of slack in its relaxed position. All right, y'all. Well, since we got everything kind of assembled and in a position to where we know that we're looking good, right? We don't have to worry about taking anything back off, just adjusting a few things. Now I want to go ahead and start torquing things down, putting thread lock where it needs to be, right? For example, I know that these risers, I'm not going to have to take them off again. So I got the torque wrench here set up. Harley says 30 to 40 foot-pounds. So I'm gonna go right there in the middle and set it at 35. 19, and again, that's foot-pounds. 19 millimeter. We're gonna go ahead and take one bolt off at a time. That's another reason why I wanted the bars installed, was so that I don't have any twisting or anything crazy like that, because the bars are gonna keep everything kind of in place. So we'll go ahead, we'll put Loctite on, and then we'll torque them down. So one at a time here, and we'll just get it going. Next step for me is actually going to be putting just the brake lever on. Super simple. Just slide her up on in there. So something that I forgot to mention is you want this tab to go into your master cylinder. There's a gap there for it. Make sure you do that. Something I forgot to mention and do when getting those back together. All right, y'all, when it comes to brakes, I'm not the best with them. I don't want to give any of my recommendations because I kind of am learning myself. So I had to refer to a few YouTube videos. I would just look up how to bleed brakes and find somebody that's a little bit more knowledgeable than going by what I say. But ultimately, we put this kit in. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have to do that, because if you bought the ABS version of the bike, you won't have to do that. But if you do, it's one bolt. It's the simplest thing. But we ran our extension up to the brake lever, and I bled the brakes. A little bit of a mess on the floor, but other than that, no real big issue. They feel pretty solid, but for peace of mind, I'm gonna bleed them one more time. But I don't feel any kind of sloppiness, so we'll see how they feel. But other than that, yeah, we'll have to go ahead and get the tank back on. The fairing's staying off because I bought a new fairing, which we'll do a review on here in a little bit. And yeah, the only thing I'm missing is my 2 turn signal extensions and my digital gauge pod, like I've said. But ultimately, I still want to get this bike out and make sure that everything feels right. And you know, it's easy to take the fuel tank off for when I get the extensions. I've already ordered them, but it's not critical for just riding around the block real quick just to test everything. All right, so we got the gas tank back on. Got the 2 bolts in. They're just snug right now because this is going to have to come back at least up so I can get these other wires in. So I will thread lock those in once I get the final extensions here. Gas tank on, fuel line on, overflow, and fuel pump. I would recommend doing the fuel pump first, getting that connected, then dropping it down. Learn from my mistakes, one of those things. And yeah, we'll get the seat on, put the fuse in, and we'll start it up and see how it looks.